So I might have bought a little bit too much. Uh, I went to England, as you may know, and I kind of went nuts and bought way too many books. Although, is there such a thing as too many books? You might ask yourself that, and after you see this video you might say yes there is. So sufficient to say I'm completely broke, but I'm really happy with tons of books. They're all stacked here on the ground, and yeah, I just have to find spots for them. It's probably not gonna happen. I'm not gonna say too much about each book, because then this is going to be a video of about 6 hours long, probably. So I'm just gonna keep it short and tell you a little bit about where I got them, and maybe a little bit about what they're about, or if I'm really excited to read it, and then just tell you more about the books once I've actually read them all, which might be pretty soon. So, you know, with all these books that I have, you might be wondering, well, do you even read all of them? Well, no, I don't. I have way too many books I still have to read. But now I'm kind of on a book ban, self-imposed, with the exception of some releases that I'm just really looking forward to. Those are the exceptions. But I'm not allowed to buy a lot of books anymore, even though I might be going to the book fair. That might be another exception. This isn't going to work, is it? But anyway, I just need to read more books that I already have. And I want to read a lot of books that I already have, but new books are so shiny and pretty, and they just want me to buy them. But let's not dwell on that, and let's get started. I'm going to show you all the books that I bought. The first book is actually a book that I bought in Shakespeare & Co. And it was awesome. If you don't know, Shakespeare & Company is a bookshop in Paris. And yes, I went to Paris. It was awesome. And it's beautiful. It's this really tiny, gorgeous, great atmospheric bookshop, and the only problem is it was a little bit busy, because a lot of people like me just want to visit it when they visit France, and yeah, so it was really busy and a really hot day, so there was actually a queue outside to get in, because they didn't want too many people in. So I want to go back when it's not, you know, really touristy season, so that I can just be the only tourist there instead of, you know, stacked with all the others. But the book that I bought is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, and it's a gorgeous copy. Shiny, I love it. It's hardcover, and it has this cool map in. Okay, I said I was going to take too long with books, but this is an exception. And a stamp of Shakespeare and Company, the bookstore. It says Shakespeare and Company, Kilometer Zero, Paris, because it's right next to Notre Dame, and that's kilometer zero, which means that that's the point where they measure everything in Paris. So, you know, if you say, if you see a sign Paris 50 kilometers, it's to Notre Dame. But anyway, love it. Haven't read it yet, but I'm going to love it. And then I also bought Jonathan Swift, A Modest Proposal, these little black penguin classics, which are great. They're only 80p, or in this case €2, because you know, they had sent it overseas. And I bought this in the first English bookshop on the continent, which is also in Paris. Who knew? And I just really want to buy something there. And I love these little penguin classics, and I like Jonathan Swift, so yeah, can't wait to read it. I bought 1 or 2 other books in Paris, but they're somewhere in this pile, so I'm just gonna show you the books. Most of these were bought in England. I've got the Magic Faraway Tree collection by Enid Blyton. I'm trying to collect a lot of her books. My mom used to love her books when growing up, and I never really read any of her books growing up. So I'm catching up. And this is 3 books in one, and I just love the cover. And it's a Magic Faraway Tree. You can't go wrong, right? A book that I really wanted, The Magisterium, The Iron Trail by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare, 2 of my favorite authors, so I can't wait to read this one. This is actually really good for me, because I wasn't sure what to read after the Mistborn series. I was kind of like, my life was over. I didn't know what to do. I picked up a few books, and none of them I just couldn't read them because I just want to read another Mistborn novel, but there wasn't any. I think there's one like 100 years further, but I don't have it and I'm not allowed to buy books. But now I see a lot of books again that I really want to read, including this one. Speaking of the Mistborn series, I actually bought this before I went on holiday. If you don't know the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson, stop what you're doing and read it. Order it, buy it, go out and get it. It's so good. I absolutely love it. I'm just gonna get them out here so you can see them all. This is part 1. It's called Mistborn. You have part 2, The Well of Ascension, and part 3, The Hero of Ages, and they are amazing. I love them. They're probably my favorite books of this year, maybe even a couple of years. And I'm going to talk about it more in a separate video pretty soon. Hopefully it's... Oh, you can see me sweating. That's not nice. It's really hot right now, so I might not be able to make a lot of videos. But yeah, there's a separate video about this coming soon. Okay, next up we have A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas. And I love Sarah J Maas. I love her Throne of Glass series. And this one is actually signed. There's a signature sticker in it, which is awesome. And the sticker saying it was signed was ripped off by someone. Maybe someone who wanted to go back and buy it. Sorry if that was the case and you just happened to be watching this. But yeah, love it. I really want to read this. Next up is The Pointless Book by Elfie Dates. And if you're a hardcore watcher of my videos, you might be wondering, don't you already have this book? The answer is yes. Yes, I do already have this book. But my mom saw a pile of them and just, you know, checked. It was in Brighton, by the way. Checked to see if he hadn't signed them, because he sometimes signs his books because he lives in Brighton. And just so happened that that day he went into Waterstones and signed a bunch, which is awesome. So now I have a signed copy, and yes, I rebought it just for that. Then I have 2 young Sherlock Holmes books by Andrew Lane, and I love the Sherlock Holmes series so far, the young Sherlock Holmes series. I love Sherlock, if you didn't know yet. I love the movies and the BBC series and the old series, and of course the books. I love them. And yes, this is young Sherlock. So he is still a kid. He's kind of sort of, you know, kid teenager in the middle phase, I think. I'm not quite sure what his actual age is, but I already read Red Leech, which is part 2 in the series, and it was really good. He's becoming more Sherlocky, and you can really see where he gets ideas and things that become traits that he has in, you know, the original books. And I think that was really cleverly done and really funny for people who know the original books. And then part 3, Black Eyes. Haven't read it yet, but I'm gonna read it soon. Ink and Bone by Rachel Kane. I have a lot of books by Rachel Kane, and Ink and Bone just sounds awesome, and I love the cover. I actually have not really a clue what's about. I think something about the Great Library of Alexandria, so that's cool enough. That you had me at the library and the pencil and just, yeah. I also bought Ray Bradbury Will Always Have Paris, which is, I think, short story collection. I love Ray Bradbury. I've read 2 of its books so far. One was also a book of short stories, and I've read Fahrenheit 451. I absolutely loved it. And I bought this at W.H. Smith in Paris. So yeah, they have Shakespeare and Company. So yeah, they had Shakespeare and Company, W.H. Smith, and the first English bookshop on the continent. So if you want English books, apparently you have to go to Paris. So yeah, I really like that it's called Will Always Have Paris, and I bought it in Paris. I also bought at the Pound Store Beth Gooby Before Wings. Oh, Before Wings is the name, and Beth Gooby is the author. And I just really like the cover. This is really a book that I bought because I like the cover. It says, "You've brought something with you, girl. I don't know the meaning of it, but you be careful what you do here." That's ominous. I have no idea what this book's about, but it was so cheap and it looked so pretty that I seriously just bought it because of that. yeah, I like sometimes not knowing what books are about. And I see that my battery is flashing, even though it said I had full battery before. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. Of course, I couldn't find my other battery anywhere, so whew, nearly killed myself there trying to find it in my room, which is a mess. But I found it. It was right next to me underneath the blanket. Anywho, next book, The Rhythmatist, also by Brandon Sanderson. Oh, I forgot that. I don't think this has anything to do with the Mistborn series, but I'm gonna read this. And it does, I know it does have to do with magic and the Rhythmatists, whatever that is. And the cover looks amazing, so I can't wait to read this one. I'm basically just recommending all the books by Brandon Sanderson, even though I haven't read all of them yet, because he's good. Then we have The Book of Murders by Guillermo Martinez. That name there. It looked awesome. This was also just a Poundland, and it's about authors, I think, and murders, and awesome. Then we have The Pawn of Prophecy by David Eddings, and I thought, oh cool, new fancy book. And then my dad was like, what? You bought The Pawn of Prophecy by David Eddings? I have the entire series and we read it ages ago. I was like, oh, thanks, you should have mentioned that before I bought it. But anyway, this cover is gorgeous, and I always like having my own copies of series. So yeah, it's an epic fantasy apparently, and I love fantasy books, and so now when I read this, and if I'm completely addicted, I can just read my dad's copies and keep to the book ban a little bit. I also bought The Understudy by David Nichols. This was only £4 at, I believe, HMV? I think this was HMV. They sometimes have books that are pretty cheap. I read one day. It wasn't my favorite book ever, but I did enjoy it, and I know a lot of people really love David Nichols, so I want to give it another shot, and bought this one and curious to see if it's any good. I also bought part 2 of Poldark. It was now only £3 at the works. It's called The Melsa, Poldark the Melsa. It's by Winston Graham, and I read the first book. I haven't got the first book, but my dad has it and I read it, and I didn't really like it at first. Not really my kind of book, and you know, it's not fantasy or anything, and not science fiction, and not even really historical. Like, it's historical, but just about ordinary people, kind of. And then the Melsa came into the story, and I absolutely loved it, and I read it really fast. I want to read the next one, and this book is named after her, so she's a character in the books, and yeah, can't wait to read it. I also bought the second book of Lockwood & Co. Hunting Zara Business. This is The Whispering Skull, and it's by Jonathan Stroud, and I bought the first book in the series last year when I went to England. So yeah, this might become a holiday tradition, and I really like the first book. Basically, ghosts have taken over, or at least there are ghosts now everywhere, and they're kind of dangerous, and there are people who, you know, deal with them, and this kid is one of them. Then we have Isle of the Lost, a Descendants novel by Melissa de la Cruz. I haven't watched the Descendants movie yet, if it's even out. I think it is. But I read this book, and it's basically about Disney villains. They were all, you know, after the Happily Ever After in Disney, they were all banned to this island, even once they were dead. And this is about their kids, so it's really interesting. And I'm going to talk about it more in the wrap-up video. Another book that I bought at HMV, Neil Gaiman, Fragile Things. This was only £4 as well, and it's short fiction, short stories, and I'm beginning to really like short stories. I never really liked them that much, but I'm beginning to, and I love Neil Gaiman. I love all of his books that I've read so far, so I seriously can't wait to read this. And I also bought A Sprinkle of Glitter by Louise Pentland, and I never knew that was her last name, but Sprinkle of Glitter, you know, from YouTube. It's called Life with a Sprinkle of Glitter, and it's basically her channel in a book. it's a really cute book. It has, I love the design of it, and it has all these little chapters, and it's basically kind of a guide, I guess. She talks about herself and her own experiences with things, and you know, dealing with school and bullies, and but also really fun things like how to kind of, you know, glitterify, make your room more awesome, and also some baking stuff without baking, because apparently she hates baking. And I know, I really liked it. I'm going to talk more about this one in a wrap-up video as well. The next book, Doctor Who, the Shakespeare notebook, and this is really funny. It's basically supposedly this notebook that Shakespeare has, where he's trying to figure out who all these men are that sometimes pop up, and he's beginning to guess that it's always the same guy, even though he looks different. So that's basically the Doctor, and it's so basically it's like, yeah, it's Shakespeare meets Daleks and stuff like that, and it's really funny, especially if you like Shakespeare, if you know Shakespeare plays. Yeah, but again, I'm going to talk more about this. Or actually, I talked about this in my wrap-up video of Booktubeathon. I read this one. I also read the Descendants novel, and some more that are, I think, still coming up. And yeah, so I recommend you check out that video, because I talk in more depth to that. So I talk because I talk a little more about them. I also read Legion, again by Brandon Sanderson. I should call this a Brandon Sanderson haul, apparently. This is a really short story, and it's awesome. And I absolutely recommend it. Again, I'm talking more about this in my other wrap-up video. And it's, oh, wait for it. It's signed by the author, which is awesome. Unfortunately, I didn't meet any of these authors, but I did get a signed copy, which is always cool. We have H.G. Wells' A Slip Under the Microscope, again a little Black Penguin Classics book, and I really enjoyed this one. And I also read this with Booktubeathon. Yeah, it's 2 short stories and they're really good. I also went to TK Maxx because sometimes they have you know, these boxes of books that are really cheap, and this is one example. There were 3 books in there, wrapped in plastic, and I think it was only like £4 or something like that. And it's from the Immortals After Dark series. I have no idea what that is. It's by Cressley Cole, but it looks pretty cool, and I liked you know, the back and I liked what I read on the blurb of the book that I could read. But apparently this isn't part 1, 2, or 3 as I thought, but it's like part 7, 8, and 10 or something like that. So yeah, that's not that great. So these are probably going in storage, and I'm going to wait until I at least read and get book 1 to see if I want the entire series. If you know this series, let me know if it's any good, and if I should just buy the whole series as soon as I'm allowed to again. So like, I haven't bought enough books already. This isn't all of it, by the way. I have more to go down there, but I'm just, you know, grabbing them the way they are on the pile. When I got back home, I had to go to the hospital just to get a simple blood test, but apparently I was really suppressing feelings of anxiety about going to the hospital, because I have some really bad experiences there. It's one further away that we have to drive an hour to get there, because the hospital here kind of gave up, so I went to a different one, and so I really freaked out and panicked, and it wasn't nice. Also because I didn't expect it at all. And my sweet brother, he is lovely at times. I'm hoping he doesn't see this. No, I'm kidding. He said I could order some books, and now my cart was full. Yay. This isn't my day, but now that I have a different angle, you can see my dragon. It's a new t-shirt that I got. It's from Game of Thrones, and it's awesome. I'm just gonna lie back. There's a book and everything there. But anyway, actually I need to put it a little bit there. There you go. Where was I? Yes, my brother said, you know, you have this deal, 3 books for £10, and he was like, oh, you can order 3 books, you know, because you felt so sad, and he said to cheer me up. So yeah, so with y'all, look forward to that. You can buy a few books and read them, which was really, really sweet. And 2 of them already arrived in the mail. I ordered The Mysteries of the Clockwork Sparrow by Catherine Woodfine. A Twitter friend of mine went to the book launch, I think, and said it was really good, so I trust her reading instincts, because she reads a lot of the same books that I do, and I absolutely love the cover. I like the shiny and I like the silhouettes, so yeah, can't wait to read that one. And then I also ordered Half a King by Joe Abercrombie, which George R.R. Martin says grabbed me and refused to let go. And Patrick Rothfuss also says my favorite Abercrombie book yet, which, you know, doesn't necessarily mean that it's good. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that kind of also made me want to buy this book. Normally I don't really listen to those things, but they are two of my favorite authors. And Robin Hobb as well. So yeah, and it looked pretty cool. But when it arrived, it was really neon orange. I did not expect that, despite. But anyway, can't wait to read this one too. And thank you, Tim, if you're watching. You probably aren't, but thank you.